Hi, Mike Matthews, physical therapist here with the PT411. Thanks so much for joining me. If you already haven't done so, make sure you're liking, subscribing, following on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram so you can be notified when I come out with future videos. So today's video, we're going to be talking about the neck. We're going to be talking about all the different locations on the body and all the different types of symptoms that we can see that's associated with problems purely coming from the neck, purely coming from the cervical spine up here. Now, my original plan for this video was to get out my markers and to mark off every single part of the body that the neck can refer problems to, that the neck can refer symptoms to, but that was going to take a long time and it was probably going to be a waste of a couple of markers. So we're just going to kind of go over it here. To start off in the obvious spot, symptoms can show up definitely in our neck. They can start off on our neck, they can start off all around the neck, they can start off on one side more than the other, they can start off just along the back of the spine right there. Symptoms can also radiate down to our upper trap area, coming down towards our shoulders here. It can show up on either or both shoulder blades. It can show up between our shoulder blades. It can show up in our upper back, even below our shoulder blades here. It can show up in our axillary region, in our armpits right here. It can show up on any part of our arm, our elbow, our forearm, down to our wrist, hands, and fingers. And neck symptoms can also manifest as headaches and facial pains. They can start off back here in our occipital areas. They can come around to our parietal, temporal areas, to our frontal areas, and it can also refer pain to anywhere along in our facial regions as well. It's a very tricky body part. And when I say symptoms, I'm not just talking about pain. We can have numbness, we can have tingling, we can have weakness in any of these areas. We can have hot or cold sensations as well. It's a tricky area to look at because not only can this pain radiate from the neck all the way down to these areas or all the way into the front of these headaches right here, but they can also show up in spots. You can have a specific part of a nerve in that neck getting hit that supplies a very specific area and manifests just on your elbow, just on a specific spot on your forearm. It can show up in one finger or a group of a few fingers. It can show up in little blotches of headaches in different areas that aren't necessarily wrapping around your head from your neck. And I have experience in the frustrations of this even before I had aspirations of becoming a physical therapist. 3 different times I have had elbow pains. All 3 times I was initially told I had tendonitis, that I had tennis elbow out here. And of those 3 times I was told I had it, actually only one of those times did I actually have tennis elbow. The first time I was told I had that, it was actually coming from my neck, and I did not realize that until after I got into PT school and I started learning how the body works. And I actually got relief from my elbow pains when I stopped seeking treatment for my elbow and started looking elsewhere. I actually started looking at my neck. I got it worked on. I figured out what the problem was, and it cleared up all of my elbow problems that I had been struggling with for years, trying to figure out what the heck was going on with it. So why does the body act this way? It does so because every single nerve that goes down that arm, that goes down to your shoulder blades and into that area, all those nerves originate in that neck or the very upper segments of that thoracic spine as well. So with this episode, I want to teach the single best exercise, the single best thing that we can do to treat these issues or to prevent some of these issues from occurring in the first place. But to see if this exercise, if this very simple mobilization is correct for you, there's definitely a few things that we need to watch out for. If we've been having our symptoms for longer than 8 weeks, there's a really good chance that we can still respond pretty positively to this, but there's a chance we might have to do several other things that I'm saving for another video. But the other thing I want to establish is the mechanism of injury. If we've had some sort of high impact issue, whether in sports or through a motor vehicle accident, there's a good chance that you might need to have an imaging done. So if you have had something along those lines, definitely this is not right for you, something I do not want you to try at all. So before we start this mobilization, I want to establish some baselines so that we can compare to after we do the mobilization to see if it's something that's helping us. So before you start this mobilization, I want you to really think about your pain, really get a good awareness of where your pain is. We want to establish how intense it is, exactly how it feels, and exactly where it's located. So once you get a good chance to really think about it and have a really good awareness of where that is, we're going to take a look at our neck motion right here. There's several directions we're going to take a look at. First, we're going to take a look at rotation. We're going to try to move that neck as far as we can tolerate, and we want to see how far we can move it and how it feels. So we're going to move it to one side about as far as we can. We're going to move it to the other side as far as we can. With that rotation there, we're looking to see if one side's going further than the other, if one side is more painful than the other, and where that pain is showing up with that. So after we look at that rotation there, we're going to look at side bending. Side bending is just moving straight to the side, trying to bring your ear down to your shoulder. So you're going to side bend to one side there and off to the other. Same thing we're looking at here as with the rotations. We want to see if one side is stiffer than the other, where we're having pain. But with the side bending here, a lot of people end up saying they're feeling a pull on the opposite side from the side they're bending to, which can be very normal. So if you're watching this video and you have no pain and you haven't had any neck pain or other issues for a while, go ahead and do this anyways. See how much of a stretch that you can feel on that opposite side and how much of it is normal, and try to differentiate if you are having neck pain, what is a normal pull in there and what is abnormal. So after looking at that, we're going to look more in our sagittal plane, our front to back motions here. We have 4 directions here. First one is going to be looking straight down this way. We're going to see the same thing here, where the pain is, how much pain we're having, and if it feels tight or if it's limited there. Our next one is more of a protrusion movement, which most of us are probably already stuck in a protruded position right here. So, but we're going to try to take it forward, bring that chin straight forward as far as we can here. The next one we're going to go into is more of a retraction movement. So instead of protruding forward, we're going to retract straight back. We're not tilting our head up and we're not tilting our head down. We're moving straight back right here. And the big thing with this movement is probably going to feel the most stiff out of all these other movements. It's probably going to light up more pain than any other position. And then our last movement is extension. Just coming straight back this way. We're going to come back this way as far as we can. So now that we have all those established, we're going to go into this one simple exercise, this one simple mobilization, and it's actually one of these directions that we just went into. It's the retraction movement. It's the coming straight back this way, trying to retract straight back here. And like I said, it's probably one of the most limited movements that we have and one of the most painful movements. And I'm going to tell you why, especially with people who are having to sit most of the day or looking at computers most of the day. We end up sticking out into this protruded position right here, and this is the root of the majority of the problems that I see in clinic for the neck right here. It can affect both of our lower neck and our upper neck in very negative ways. As we come forward right here, our lower neck closes off in the front and opens up in the back. And as things close off in the front and they open up in the back here, everything starts to get pushed backwards where those nerves are. Those nerves get irritated, or any other structures around there that get irritated, including the discs themselves getting irritated. All these can start radiating pain, and the exact opposite issue is happening up top. As we come forward right here, the back of the upper part of our neck closes off and the front part opens up here. This creates issues going in the exact opposite direction. So what ends up happening here is it can be very common for us to have jaw-like pains, facial pains, or those headaches that get caused from closing off that area back there way too much and it kinking off those nerves back there, causing those headaches that can wrap around all the way to the front or show up in splotches that it's all coming from the neck as well. But the good thing is we know most of the time that these issues are getting caused by coming forward here. So all we have to do is that retraction. All we have to do is retract back this way. And most structures in that cervical spine and that neck respond a lot better to repeated movements than a sustained hold. So we work on this retraction here. You're gonna come back just about as far as it'll let you. You can start off nice and gentle if it's really painful, but over time, we're gonna try to see if we can go back a little bit further and further. So you're just retracting back, holding a second or two, and then relaxing off. You're gonna do this about 10 to 15 times here. So after doing that, now we have to look at our baselines. What was the first baseline we were talking about? With us just free sitting or freestanding, we're looking at where our pain is and how intense that pain is, or any other symptom that we're having. So let's just say I was having some pain starting in my neck, going down the top of my shoulder, down towards my elbow on the outside of my upper arm here. So as I'm working on this, I'm paying attention to how it's affecting it during and how it feels afterwards. More than likely during, it didn't feel too hot as I started off with this. But let's say I'm working on this and this pain starts to gradually move up the arm a little bit right here. As it's moving up here, I might feel it being more and more intense, but as long as it's moving up here, I don't care how intense it gets. If we can get that pain moving up towards that spine, that is always a good sign. But on the other side of things, if we have pain closer to the spine and we work on this and afterwards we feel like that pain is moving further down the arm, it's time to stop this exercise and you probably need to go see a physical therapist to take a look at you a little bit closer. I still want to check out my mobility in my neck. Let's say for this example, I was pretty limited with rotating to the left, but I had no limitation going to the right. Now I'm retesting it. If now I have more rotation coming this way, even though my symptoms didn't change, we're still going in the right direction. If we can mobilize this neck in one direction and it loosens up other directions, we're also going in the right direction regardless of what's happening with those symptoms. So if I did these retractions and my rotation's better, my side bending is better, I can look up further, I can protrude further, or I can look down further. Again, we're going in the right direction with things. So if we come to the conclusion that we are responding well initially to this movement, to these retractions coming back this way, we want to do this about every 2 hours throughout the day when we're awake over the next several days. We want to see if we continue to see improvements here. If at any point in time our improvements start to plateau off and we're still having some symptoms, we're still having some stiffness, we do need to add a little bit of overpressure. And so we're just taking a couple fingers on either one of our hands or even both, and we're placing them on the front of our chin here. We're still using our neck to retract back as far as we can here, but our fingers here are going to try to push that neck back that little bit further, not a lot, just a little bit further. So I retract back here, my fingers right here on the front of my chin, press back, and then I relax. Same thing, set a 10 to 15 at a time when we're working on this. We want to do this for a couple days as well. So let's say we work on this for a few days and we're seeing improvements, and all of a sudden those improvements plateau no matter how many more we do. We got to wind this neck up just a little bit more. So now instead of adding overpressure, we're going to retract and then extend. So you're going to retract back, let off on the chin without letting off on the lower segments here. So we're not retracting back here, then relaxing and looking up. We're retracting back, then letting off on the chin and coming back this way. And every time we're progressing this, it might be a little touchy to start off with. So we start off nice and slow. We don't want to do anything too crazy too quickly. We want to investigate what's happening here. So that's this week's episode. We talked about the variety of issues, the variety of symptoms that can show up, all stemming from an issue in the neck. And we also talked about the #1 starting movement to try to figure out how we can treat that neck. The next several weeks, I'm going to be talking about the neck as well. We're going to talk about other treatment options and other ways to differentiate what we need to do to not only treat neck problems, but to try to prevent them in the first place. Again, I'm Mike Matthews with the PT411. Make sure you're liking, subscribing, and following on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. Other than that, thanks for joining me.